out there in video land. Thanks for joining me today. It's now for you, it's now for us here. We've got a beautiful small group of tonight, which is beautiful because it's a small group tonight and you are here. And each and every one of you, I've known for a period of time, and there's an intimacy with the conversations and the sharings, and that's which is interesting because I've sort of gone to the end of the discussion straight away. It's I want to surround myself with meaning. And not just meaning that is automatically associated to something, because that's how the mind categorizes things. I want to be able to notice what is the meaning of that which surrounds me, and what is the meaning that I'm giving to it, and also then what is the meaning that it's giving to me, because it's this beautiful biofeedback. And if we talk about we talk about non-duality, we're talking about oneness. So I am this individual unit of consciousness, and life is so I'm a localized unit of consciousness, and life is an unlocalized unit of consciousness. And I am the same flame that comes from that source. And so I and it are one. In saying that, if you we had a discussion a couple of weeks ago that you don't actually exist other than in the mind of God. Yeah. So you could just be a series of light fractals within the imagination of something much larger. And yet there is this really beautiful love story that is continually developed of the soul returning back to its source. And here's this circle of security. Here's the ebb and flow of life. So we come in, we're birthed, and then we reach this point of death and transition. So we're going out, and then we're exploring, then we're coming back. And there's the hero's journey, going out and then coming back, going out the fool, the tarot, going out the fool, and then coming back the master. So there seems to be a movement that's happening in a particular direction. Not that we need to give it a direction, but there's movement. And so where there's movement, then there can be this awareness of how am I moving with life. And if I can become aware of that, then I can be maybe a little bit more intentional about it. Because if I'm not intentional about how I move with life, then I'm unintentional. And when I'm unintentional, I'm automated and I'm reactive. I'm repeating patterns. I'm not aware of the patterns that I'm repeating, so I just continue to repeat them. So see how we've gone out into the universe to one with source and consciousness, and then now we've brought it back to, oh, that's right, I'm a human being that has a lot of patterns, and a lot of my life is unconscious, and I want to be more conscious of it. And if I'm more conscious of it, then what does that mean? Could I be more intentional? Could I be more inquiring of the meaning that I'm attributing to my life? Because you know what? You are the one who creates meaning for your life. No one else. That's your responsibility. So I give that gift to you. Not that I'm giving it to you, but the awareness of that gift. The Buddhists speak of a concept of emptiness, and my interpretation of emptiness is that everything is empty of essence other than the essence that we place upon it. So I'll say that again. Yes. Everything is empty of essence. It doesn't hold anything. It's just there. It is the essence that we place upon it. So what is the essence? What is the meaning that you attribute to the thing? The cup of tea, it's a beautiful cup, or I could look at this cup and think of a time that it was smashed on the floor and it cut my foot open. So I don't really like these cups, and I'm really, I'm scared, and I need to be tender with it. It's just a cup. please come on in. It's our beautiful friend from last night. And she's brought some gifts as well. That could be yours though. Come on in.
Sorry,
Hello, Melody.
I'm full of everything.
We're just starting in a sense. Yeah. So tonight I'd like to talk about a couple of things. One is this concept called the Matrix. There is obviously a movie. I think there was 4 parts to it. Great movie. When it first came out, I really was drawn to it because it was a mixture of quantum physics and Buddhism. And this is right up my alley. I'm sold on it. And I could see initially part of what it was saying, and it wasn't until many years after that I then fully realised what it was saying. And so that was a series of my evolution, and it was placed on my path there too. So in the spiritual space, and we sit in the spiritual space, we sit in the psycho-spiritual space, and last week we spoke about the ascension process, 3D to 5D and all that sort of stuff, yeah. And there's a lot of conversation within this space talking about, I'm unplugging from the Matrix, I've saw glitches in the Matrix today, so it's this word that sort of represents something, and there's the inference that my interpretation of it is your interpretation of it, so once I say the word, then obviously you know what I'm talking about, yeah. However, that's not necessarily the case, and sometimes we don't even understand our own interpretation of it other than a very vague concept. We don't actually look into it and go, well, if there was a matrix, what would it be? But what do other people call it? Maybe I could associate it to something that I can already see within life. So I wanted to share with you a really nice, concise way of looking at the Matrix, and then what it brought up for me as well. And now I got this from a young lady on YouTube, The Alchemist. Once again, she's got some really great conversations that she shares with people. There are some parts within her videos where she gets the densities and the dimensions a little bit mixed up. So I think that's probably my only feedback around that, because it can get quite confusing. And I think it's good to be quite concise and clarifying with densities and dimensions, especially when you're talking about ascension, especially when you're talking about the matrices, 3D, 5D, that sort of thing too. So just to put it into context, what I'd probably like to speak about tonight is we're going to talk about dimensions. So matrices in dimensions. So we have a 1D, 2D, 3D is the 3D, and then 4D, we then start to move into, and I think they're saying that time is 4D. So as you move into 4D or fourth dimension, then time starts to skew. It's not so linear. It becomes a bit more simultaneous and linear at the same time, And then when you move into 5D, you sort of, in a sense, time is really losing its grasp on things. Okay, and it's interesting because let's just park this concept of time. So when we look at the matrix, and it'll be interesting just to consider briefly now, so who has heard of the term matrix? Okay, who has used the term matrix in their conversations? Okay, we've got a couple there. Have you listened to somebody talking about the matrix in their conversations?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and how would they have described it?
Oh, I don't know if I even have a concept of it quite yet.
Yes. Okay. Good. So you've heard it at least in conversation,
mm-hmm.
but you haven't necessarily used it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. used it yourself?
Yeah, my youngest son has used it actually, and he talks about it being, he's actually said to me it's just an invisible world that controls us and we're just going through the motions.
Right, okay, so see there's an explanation.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's his explanation.
That's his explanation.
And mine is a collective consciousness working together of a matrix, just a collective.
Yes, okay, so see the difference in, it's the same word but a different interpretation of it. Yeah. Do you guys have some formulated version of what the matrix is?
To me, it just represents the illusion.
All right, so the illusion. So see now there's what is the illusion? Yeah. So it represents the illusion. Okay. Simulation. Yeah. All right. So another bit similar. Alec?
I used to feel that it was something being done to us. We were caught in their matrix.
Something being done to us. We're caught in their matrix. Yes. Okay.
And yet have come to a newer understanding.
Yes. Possibly.
It's a matrix.
It's a matrix. All right. Beautiful. Ben?
Yeah, I think mine was like the simulation as well. That's how I view it.
Yeah, okay, so simulation. Right, so we've got a bit of there seems to be some type of commonality within this, yeah? Okay, beautiful. So, when we hear the word matrix and we associate meaning to it, there seems to be something that is surrounding us, something that we seem to be in. Yeah? So it's, yeah. What is it? We're not too sure. So are the walls part of the matrix? Is nature part of the matrix?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Nature.
Yeah. Possibly. Right. So see how now we're starting to question it and define it and really come closer to it and pull it apart. All right. So this is a interpretation of it, which I found interesting. Okay. So, and I was just taking notes as I was listening. So the matrix, some of us have, and I initially thought it was a virtual reality construct, part of a simulation, which was part of a holographic universe. Okay, so this was, and the way that I used to read it was that the creator source is basically light, and the way that we're created is through light. So light is manifest through different densities. So the lower the density, so here we have densities and we have dimensions, the lower the density, the more what we would call matter, the more dense light is, that it can then form something called matter. Yeah. So the higher the density, the higher the octave, or higher, say with the chakra system, the higher we up, the higher the vibration. Light is in its more truer form, so it's less dense. Okay, this human body is dense. It needs.
Tell me about it. Look at it.
It needs to be dense to survive in this environment. So then there's this concept that there is a spirit or consciousness that then resides in this body for a period of time. So consciousness visits this plane of existence through this vehicle because consciousness is too high a vibration to express itself into this form. It needs a body to inhabit. And when it inhabits a body, then it gets the gift of inhabiting what it feels like to have a human body, which is thoughts, emotions, what we call physicality, muscles, all of the other bits and pieces, electric signals, yeah? And then we have this, here's this human that seems to have relationships with others. We're not singular, we have relationships, and then their relationships cause thoughts and emotions to be experienced. Yeah, and then there's this mind. Okay, so we've got this human experience, we've got consciousness coming into it, and then we've got this matrix. So it has been seen as a virtual reality construct, similar to the simulation theory. And sometimes when we see it as that, we can fall into the trap of that it's being done to us. by them or by something else, and it is confining us. It's the bloody 3D matrix, you know, it's just confining my special abilities that I have where I can be telepathic. Because I'm in a 3D matrix, it's really hard to do that. Another way of looking at it is that it is an organic creation of consciousness. Yeah. It's an organic creation of consciousness, even though it is the thing that creates the illusion. It's still an organic creation of consciousness, because it can't be anything other than consciousness, because it exists within consciousness. You know, even if it was an AI construct, then AI is still part of consciousness because it sits in it. Yeah. So the way that they explained, or the alchemist explained it, was that it's an extracellular tissue. So the matrix is an extracellular tissue, and that encapsulates the third dimension. And it's sort of like, so this extracellular tissue is this overlay like a womb. So a matrix, in a sense, is a womb that holds the three-dimensional experience. Right? Yeah. And so notice that as the womb holds the three-dimensional experience, to come into the three-dimensional experience, we come into a womb. And then we get expressed from the womb, and then we return. Yeah. We don't return to the womb, but we then return back to source, in a sense. So the womb is this extracellular tissue, which is the fabric of space and time. So the extracellular tissue, you could look at it as a womb, is a fabric of space and time. Right? So for us to have an experience, and it's really interesting because I was contemplating this the other day, and I think we were having a conversation, was that for somebody to be an old soul, that would suggest that there's been a period of time for it to grow from young to old. So see how important time is? And now, are we just using time though because we're using these three letters OLD to express the frequency that is felt being in the presence of that soul? All right, so see how rather than just telepathically going and not saying any words, we go, gee, that's an old soul. And the way that we can express the frequency is that this is old in relation to time. And maybe it's only old in relation to time because we're in a three-dimensional experience and we're trying to express what this is through these words. Does that make sense? In a sense? Right. So anyway, time. So it's a fabric of space and time. Now, the interesting thing here is that space and time are weaved together to create the fabric of the womb, which holds the matrix of the 3D experience. I'll say that again. Yeah. Space and time, they're like the threads that are weaved together to create the extracellular tissue, the web, which is the womb of whatever is held in it, which is the three-dimensional experience. Yeah. So space and time, we've got two threads. Space and time are actually threads of light. Right. Now, a hologram, because now we're going into the holographic nature of reality, a hologram is light that's projected with an interference pattern. So, when you have 2 points of light and you project them and they interfere with each other, they create something. And that thing that is created is actually a hologram. So light, which comes from source, has been fractalized into time and space, brought together and interweaved into an extracellular womb tissue, which then holds whatever's in it. Now, whatever's in it, in our case, is the third dimension. It's a 3D matrix. The interesting thing is that for every dimension, it has its own matrix. So there's a 5D matrix, there's a 7D matrix, there's a 12D matrix. There has to be, because each dimension has its own, in a sense, creation. It has its own opportunity or possibilities of experience, and they're held within that. So if you see it from that perspective, that they're held within it, then we can only see what we are in. Yeah? Now, if I am using my 3D senses, all I will be able to see is the 3D matrix that I'm in. I can't see beyond it. If I use my 5D senses, then I can see beyond the 3D. I can see the glitches in the matrix. I can see how the matrix is actually a program that is based upon the law of attraction. And so then I can see what the program is from my 5D perspective, because here's this 3D, but I'm out here looking at, that's how that works. So I know how it works, and then I insert myself back into, and then I work from the inside out. So when you're in a lower dimensional matrix, you can only see where you are if you're using the senses that are related to it. If you want to see beyond the 3D matrix, you need to use your 5D senses. And the 5D senses will be through your clairs, your clairvoyance, your clairaudience, your clairsentience, your claircognizance. So we could call them psychic abilities, but they're not psychic abilities. They're just your 5D matrix abilities, which you already have. And I'm going to say that to you because you already have it, because you're listening to this. If you found your way listening to this, that suggests that there's something that's within you that is looking for this information. And there's something within you that wants to be activated through some words that I'm going to say. You may not get activated with every word that I say, but there might be something in here that goes, okay, wow. Now I'm a different person. Yeah. So, utilizing your 5D senses, you'll be able to see beyond the 3D matrix. That's where meditation helps, the breath work helps, all of these modalities help. The shadow work helps, the releasing helps, the systemic constellations, the internal family systems, all of these things that we offer here, the plant medicine, all of this allows you to then start to use or become more aware of your 5D senses. So let me just come back to this. Hologram projections of light, interference patterns of light, source consciousness crossing paths. So we've got this light is put into time and space, and it's weaving a net to then create the tissue and the fabric of space and time. So what it's doing, it's weaving vibrations. Now, you weave your vibration as well, right? And you're weaving it with other vibrations through your co-creating. Also, you're a transmitter and receiver. So whatever you are transmitting, whatever your frequency, whatever your vibrational rate is that you're transmitting, is what you're going to be able to attract. This phrase, life can only give to you that which you already are. So I'll say that again. Life can only give to you that which you already are. It can't give you anything different. Yeah. So the best way to work out what you are is then to look at what's happening with life and what it's giving you. So if there's people that are being placed upon your path that's causing conflict, then you can then start to question, where is the internal conflict within me? Yeah. So the matrix, or the organic creation of consciousness that is interweaving and holding this experience, it's holding the experience through the parameters of the law of attraction. So this is one of the universal laws. The law of attraction, and then there's another universal law of free will. Okay? So free will is really interesting, because free will is that you can only accept what you consent to. Be careful what you consent to. And when you are consenting, you're consenting through your words. Your words cast spells. That's why they call it spelling. Be mindful of your words. Be mindful of the thoughts and how they express themselves. Mindful of the story that you tell. What is your narrative? Because the more that you tell your story, the more that becomes your history. You're writing a chapter, you're writing a page in your book each and every day through the words that you share with others. What words have you shared with others today? When someone says, "How are you?" What's the response? Now, as much as there's words that create spells, it's the feeling, it's the felt sense of what those words are generating, because that is going to impact your frequency. So if you want to work out where you're at in life, what's actually in here, look at what's happening out there, because you know what? That's your life. It's specific to you. It's not happening to anyone else in this way other than you. You are the common denominator in your life everywhere you've gone. So see how now it's not only this extracellular tissue that we call the matrix here that it's good to be aware of. It's like, hang on, I have created my own matrix within my own mind. So that matrix out there is representative of the matrix in here. That is a reflection of this. This stuff that you see outside of you, that's you. That's the beautiful thing about this. You can't get away from yourself even if you try to. You go and isolate yourself in a cave, you still can't get away from yourself. And you go, I need to get away from my loneliness in this cave. I need to go and hang out with other people. And then you go and hang out with other people and you go, oh shit, there I am again. So life is constantly showing you through the matrix. Through the matrix. What else did it say? She was saying that pure spirit exists outside of the matrices. So basically, the essence, the consciousnesses that you are, exists outside of the matrix. So there's another concept. Let's give it a concept or a possibility of thought that we choose to come into this matrix and forget all of the past lives that we had, all of the experiences that we've had, and also what we've agreed to have with this experience here. And the reason why we come into that with the veil of forgetting is because we want to have an authentic experience. If you actually knew where you were going, it'd be pretty boring, this life. There's no surprises, there's no spontaneity, there's no amazingness. See how boring life becomes if you knew where you were going? It'd take all the fun out of the exploration, the discovery, the nuances. I wonder what'll happen today. I'm feeling inspired to go over here. Oh, wow. Or what am I doing here? Oh, that's right. I just found myself here. Isn't that amazing? So see, there's a beauty in being lost, because we then want to find something. We want to get out of being lost. So see how it creates movement, and this is all movement. Coming back to what I was originally saying is that I want to surround myself with meaning. I want to surround myself with intentional meaning. The conversations, the intimacy within the conversations. There's meaning, there's significance within that. That fills my heart. Now I'm in a state of fulfillment. And now I'm vibrating at the state of fulfillment. Life can only give to you that which you already are. Then life gives me more experiences that are fulfilling. I'm in a state of gratitude. Oh, cool. Wow, there's more things I can be grateful for. I'm in a state of abundance. Wow, look how much abundance there is. I've got chili chips that are just arriving at my space every fortnight, just like that. So, and why is that? Because it's the law of attraction, because it's part of the simulation, because life is listening to you. It's going, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And if you're not asking for it, it listens to what you're saying in your mind. I'm not good enough. I'll never be enough. I always get it wrong. Oh, okay, you want more of that? Okay, we can give you more of that. Because life loves you so much. It's unconditional. The love that life has for you is unconditional. And it's honoring your free will. You want more pain and suffering? Okay, we've got plenty of experiences that can, there's a group of people over here who want to be a part of that, who not necessarily want to be a part of it, who will, from a soul perspective, agree to be that for you. How's that one? Yes, I will be your perpetrator because I love you. I will be that for you from a soul level. And there's an honouring within that. Are you sure you want to do that? Because I'm just going to whip you as much as I can. Yeah, that's okay. I will be that for you. See the power in that? That's where compassion, that's where forgiveness, that's where unconditional love comes into it. Yeah. Doesn't mean that you welcome in with open arms. Ram Dass said, whatever you do, if you need to hold somebody at arm's length, but always hold them in your heart.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's boundary, line in the sand. That's not acceptable, but still, I love you. I see you as another. I see you as myself. I want to step into a really interesting concept within the Matrix. And I've been toying with this one for many, many years because it was introduced to me probably about 4 years ago, actually probably about 20 years ago, but then I found it again 4 years ago and I went, I'm not too sure about that. So I feel confident enough to speak about it now because I feel as though there's a more rounded explanation of it. Yeah? And it's related to NPCs. So NPCs are non-player characters. Okay. From a spiritual perspective, who has heard of the concept of NPCs? Okay, so we've got a couple, right? So the suggestion here is that, and when I did my journey and I came back and I was trying to integrate being human again, I used to, and I still do, I go and meditate down on the riverbank there, and I'd be sitting there meditating, and then I'd open my eyes and I'd just see these people in the background. They were sort of like extras in my movie, and I was just watching them, and they come and they go, and in my experience, these people, the only thing that they represented to me in my whole life was that there was a person moving in the background. So in that moment, that person could have just been a figment of my imagination, because I would never know. There just seemed to be this, whenever they're making movies, they employ a lot of extras because the main character is in the foreground and all of these people are moving around. Because if you didn't have the extras and you just had the main characters, then it wouldn't feel as real. Right? So notice we're coming into this experience because we want a real experience. Yeah. And maybe the matrix, the organic creation of consciousness, places other people, human beings, in as non-player characters. Now, the way that you can tell a non-player character is that, let's just call it, they're very much like sheep. They're very much like robots. There's very surface level conversations, and it seems to last throughout their whole life. They're swayed between right and wrong, so there's no grey. It's very, they're quite easily led by the masses. There's not too much critical thinking around, hang on, I'm not too sure about the science about that, you know. So these are, let's call them people, that seem to be, in a sense, filling spaces and interactions, and yet still generate a frequency. And they generate a frequency which then continues to enhance the mainstream view of life. Okay. All right. Because if you want to create a movement, then you get people to move in the same direction. Now you've got a movement. And how do you get them to move in the same direction? Well, you give them an idea. I don't know if any of you've seen Inception. No. Got to check it out. All right. The idea is, can I insert an idea in someone's mind so they thought that they thought it, right? And see how now it's free will, yeah? And then they can create it, all right? So if you can, and this happened in the COVID time, there was a concept called mass formation that occurred, right? So all of the mainstream media outlets had the same narrative, and they needed the same narrative to create a particular perspective of fear around a particular virus that may have been real or may not have been. I'm not actually too sure. So there was a big movement towards that. And if anybody was against the movement, see how there was another narrative that would then ostracize and push away. Right? Now that is psychology on a mass scale. And what it showed was how many sheep there are. Now, I'm not saying, I'm not getting political about this, but a lot of people didn't question it. The people who did question it and still followed it, then good on them. But it's the people who didn't question it. And that's just one example, you know. So what is, if I'm not questioning the mainstream narrative, I'm more likely going to be an NPC, because my actual experience as a soul is just to have the human experience. Right? So we've got this concept of NPCs. There's other words that have been used where they're soulless people, which I don't believe so. I don't think they're soulless people. And so you've got NPCs, you've got soulless people, and you've got just AI constructs of the Matrix. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this is because when you look at this concept of old soul and like young soul, and when we look at the law of one, so who's heard of the law of one? If you haven't, you can check out the law of one. Law of one was a channeled works back in 1980s. There was people in meditation groups, and they were doing a PhD on actually channeling. So they channeled these works, and it's called Law of One, and it talks about densities and dimensions, and it also talks about, it's sort of like a spiritual, metaphysical understanding of the universe. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Yeah. So where was I going with the Law of One then? Was anyone keeping track of where I was at?
We were talking about NPCs.
Yep. Ah, okay.
You're on the river meditating.
Beautiful. All right. So NPCs, young soul versus old soul. Now, from a law of one perspective, we have density. So remember I was talking about light coming through, and the lower the density, the more solid the mass becomes. Yep. Okay. So first density is actually like it's the earth, it's the elements. Second density is plants. Yeah, plants and animals. So consciousness comes into the elements. All right. So consciousness, at the beginning of soul, is to go and become a rock for 3 million years. Okay, cool. I'll just go and sit around and see what it's like to be a rock. Yeah. Okay, cool. Go and hang out and see what it's like water. Right. This is groovy. Water's like this. So soul or consciousness is starting its evolution. Sort of makes sense. Like, where do you start from? Well, let's start from the earth. Yeah. So it's moving its way up through its incarnational process until it then starts to get to second density. So second density is plants and animals. Now, have you ever had a pet that you swear has got a real personality and it's listening to you and it's talking to you? Yeah. So they are souls that have incarnated into that experience. Now, some are higher density and higher dimensional souls that are coming in. I'm just going to be a cat and I'm going to be your guide, you know, for a period of time. I had a cat like that. He was 26 years old. And he knew what I was thinking every time. He'd be looking at me going, yeah, okay, you're right, no worries. So I believe that he was a higher density soul coming in to be my guide. Just be with me, yeah? Follow me and play with me in the astral planes, because cats can play in the astral planes really well. Yeah? So some animals develop a personality and then they're ready for graduation to come into a human experience. Now, if you were one of those souls coming into a human experience, you're very young to this human experience. So you really don't want to think too much. You just want to come in and go, what is it like to walk on 2 feet? And I've got these emotions and there's this thing called awareness and now I'm interacting with this. So a young soul coming through the densities would spend a lot of time in being a non-player character because it makes sense. I don't want to go deep. I don't need to think about enlightenment. I just got into this body. Can you give me maybe, I don't know, 1,000 lifetimes just to get used to this? And then I might start to consider, oh, maybe I'm more than this. So I like that analogy of, we could call it a naive soul. We could call it a non-player character. Yeah, we could call it a young soul. And so they're these souls that just come in to have the experience. Now, I think it's, and, you know, Marie's, oh, that's lovely, but how does that relate to my experience? I think what happens is that you're in the spiritual space, all right? You've woken up, so that would suggest you're not an NPC. Right? So you've woken up at a particular time, you're seeking information, you found yourself here, you're listening to this. What happens though is that not all of our friends are like us. You're going to have a lot of friends that are NPCs, that are young souls, that don't want to wake up. That wasn't part of their contract. They're just here to create and have that experience. And what I'm suggesting here is that if we can see people like that and maybe shine that lens, we might have a greater compassion of where they're at. We can also, it can help, and me personally, because I'm somebody who likes to wake and shake the tree and wake people up. And sometimes I can get frustrated, my parts can get frustrated. So for me, it's like, oh, look, I don't have to wake everybody up. I don't have to do anything. You know, Maurice, just turn up and then see who comes. And when you go out, have the interactions with people that can vibe as high as possible. Yeah? And where they can't, then that's okay as well. So we don't have to wake everybody up. We don't have to save, because some of us are rescuers. We have this rescuing archetype, you know. So it can help us develop compassion. And it can also, the Buddhists have a really beautiful terminology that, detach with loving compassion to all sentient beings. You know, that's in the sense what Mani Padme Hum is representing. Detaching with loving compassion to all sentient beings is that, you know what, I honor you because you are a sentient being having your own experience, and that's beautiful. You know, no matter where it takes you, there's a beauty in it, and I can detach with love and compassion because I don't have to save you, I don't have to rescue you, I don't have to do anything. However, I'm here to share, and if you're willing to listen, then that's great. I can, in a sense, show you the door that I've stepped through. Totally up to you if you want to step through that door as well. So, yeah. Non-player characters versus player characters. And if you don't want to be a non-player character and you want to be a player character, then how do you play? And this comes back to that initial conversation that I said that for me, the way that I want to play is I want to surround myself with meaning. Yeah, really intentional meaning. What is that? What was that moment that we shared? What was the meaning that then came out of that? Because that's how I remember you. Like every time I see every one of you, I remember the moments. I remember these dots in time, and then the emotional expression that was surrounding that, and what that represented for me, and what I'm inferring it could have represented for you. Yeah. Through the eyes, through the micro expressions on the face. That's what I remember. And that is the meaning that I want to continue to surround myself with. Yeah. And remember, life can only give you that which you already are. So if you are intentional meaning, then life goes, I've got plenty of experiences for you that have intentional meaning. And then let me surprise you. See? That's where it is. And I think that's it. Matrix, extracellular tissue, fabric of space and time that creates this holographic experience. We are space and time because we are light as well, and what is the holographic experience that we're being a part of? If you want to see beyond the 3D matrix, then use the 5D senses to then pop up and then have a look back down, get that information, bring it back down into this space, and then use that to not necessarily manipulate the matrix, but work with the matrix in the way that it was intended. Yeah? Because it's not intended to trap you. It's intended to show you, because it's always there. Consider, what is your relationship with the matrix? What is your relationship with life? Because that's really important too, because how I relate to life is how life will relate to me. If I think life's out to get me, it's doing things to me, it's taking things away, if I'm getting caught up in that conversation or that relationship, then that's how it will then continue to relate to you, because it's a fabric of reality that's just listening. There's an intelligence with it. It's beautiful. And we're dancing with it. We're either dancing with it or we're wrestling with it. And both of those is okay. It's encapsulated in that experience. Yeah, could be an NPC, probably not. Try to be a PC, player character, and then work out how you want to play. Cool. I'll say goodbye to everybody there, and then we'll open it up here.